With the addition of the new endgame duo boss, Yama, we are being introduced to a new best-in-slot armor gear, the Soul Set. The Soul Set isn't posed to outclass Torva outright, but instead compete with it in certain scenarios. The blog states that the Soul Armor set has 7 less melee strength, but if you add the numbers, it comes out to 6 less melee strength. Jagex does get this correct in the table down below. The stats of each armor piece is kind of all over the place. It might even be worth combining with Torva in some places. For example, the Soul Helm has 50 range defense, the chestplate has 112 range defense, so it seems like the armor is pretty tanky against range. But then the legs have negative 21 range defense. It's an odd decision, but let's focus on the set as a whole. Where is it better than Torva, and by how much? This set doesn't have any special set effects, it is just flat stats, so we can use the Gearscape website to compare the Soul Armor with Torva. If you don't have Torva yet, I imagine this set will be worth grinding. There are an abundance of slash weapons in the game, so this will benefit all of them. And as of late, it seems like Jagex is making newer drops easier to get compared to huge grinds like Torva. This set also has built-in dry protection, so you won't have to shed a tear over your 5th Torva helm in a row. This video is to compare the Soul Armor against the current best in slot, Torva. Let's start with a high defense boss, which is where this armor is supposed to be good, Vardorvis. Vardorvis has a slash-based attack, so you will actually be taking less damage in this armor set compared to Torva. This is especially good here, as it means Vardorvis will heal less, so kills will be quicker. Besides you taking less damage, the increased accuracy has a very powerful effect here. Full Torva has a DPS of 5.4, and the Soul Armor has a DPS of 5.9. This is almost a 10% increase in damage over Torva. There's another tanky Desert Treasure 2 boss though, Duke Succulus. The defense between the two sets doesn't matter too much here, but once again, the Soul Armor has close to a 10% damage increase over Torva. Duke is a bit different though, because sometimes you'll hit a Bandos Godsword. But even if we factor in a Bandos Godsword hit of 40, which is fairly generous, the Soul Armor set is still much better than Torva. This also translates to the awakened versions of both of these bosses, so we should be seeing easier Duke and Vardorvis kills. This is what Jagex wants, Soul Armor to win in high defense scenarios. Let's take a look at lower defense scenarios though. What about something simple, like Sarachnis? Sarachnis has level 150 defense and 40 slash defense, so it's pretty low, but it could get lower. I would consider Sarachnis on the lower end of middle range defense. In a situation like this, Torva still loses to Soul Armor. However, if you're farming the Sarachnis pet, you may still take Torva as you'll be taking a lot less damage compared to the Soul set, and it's not a big damage loss. This is what I would say, except while killing something like Sarachnis, you pray the whole time so the lower defense doesn't even matter. In fact, the only monsters actually damaging you are the mage spawns. And if you remember from that table in the beginning, Soul Armor has more magic defense compared to Torva. It's still nothing like AFKing and Masori, but if you're trying to get quick kills, Soul Armor is the obvious winner here. So Soul Armor still wins on something with low defense like Sarachnis, which means we have to go even lower if we want to see Torva shine. Can the Theater of Blood be our savior? In the Theater of Blood, it's very common to lower everything's defense. So for Maiden, we will be using 0 defense. Bloat, we will use a 40 BGS hit to illustrate an average drive-by. We will use the same 40 hit on the Niloking. For Sodaseg, we assume 2 hammers, and Zarpus we will assume 0 defense, and for Verzik, we can't lower her defense. In Maiden, Torva still wins. Not by a huge margin, but enough to be a clear winner. Soul Armor is 11.1 DPS, and Torva is 11.6. In Bloat, Torva wins again, but the margin is slimmer, 10.6 for Torva and 10.3 for Soul. The Nilo boss, Torva wins as well, 11.5 compared to 11, but in Sodaseg, Soul Armor barely wins at 9.01 compared to 8.99. However, if you miss one or both hammers, the difference grows quite a bit. In Zarpus, Torva wins by quite a bit, 11.6 DPS compared to 11.1. Verzik, though, is where it gets interesting. Phase 1 doesn't matter too much, they are about the same though, with Torva being slightly better. In Phase 2, Soul Armor is actually a fair amount better, 7.3 DPS compared to 6.9. And in Phase 3, the armor sets are almost exactly the same, but the Soul set is actually still better. Theater of Blood is a raid where everything basically has no defense. The upcoming Soul Horn will help guarantee these special attacks to lower the defense as well. This is where Torva should noticeably be best in slot, but overall, it's pretty close with the Soul Armor. It's already pretty hard to justify the Torva grind on an Iron Man, and with the Soul set coming into game, well, we'll have to see, I guess. Keep in mind, this is just for the Scythe on Slash. Some places like Huey or Moxliotl, the Inquisitor set is still best with the Scythe because you use Crush. And if you're using the Fang at places like Tombs of Amascut, Torva will still be better. Speaking about TOA, it's not really worth discussing TOA for this video. Soul Armor has the same strength bonuses as Bandos or Blood Moon and no stab accuracy. Torva has more strength than Soul, and because you primarily use stab, Torva is going to win here. With that being said, let's take a look at the other raid we can use the Scythe, the Chambers of Xeric. Chambers of Xeric has a lot of different stats depending on team size and if you're doing a challenge mode or not. I will be using a challenge mode trio as the base calculations, but if you're doing a different scale, the numbers should be similar. In Tecton, if you get 3 or less Elder Maul hits, the Soul Armor is going to be better, but once you hit that 4th Elder Maul, Torva becomes the best. In Crabs, Torva is the best because it is sexy. We're not going to melee the Ice Demon or Shamans or a lot of the rooms, so I won't really talk about those. In Vanguards, Soul Armor, once again, is quite a bit better. In Guardians, Slash doesn't matter at all, so Torva is going to be best here. In Vasa, while meleeing the glowing crystals, Soul Armor is quite a bit better, with 7.1 DPS compared to Torva's 6.7, and in Ulm, as long as you hit at least 2 hammers, Torva will be better. Because of the new horn making special attacks always hit, you shouldn't have any issues hitting the special attacks I've mentioned so far. Overall, this armor set is very competitive with Torva. The horn that comes along with this armor set is a buff to Torva, as lowering defense will be made much easier in teams. But the Soul Armor set still has a lot of places where it's going to be better than Torva without making Torva redundant. I'm really excited for this update. If you'd like a video like this breaking down the new horn, please let me know. A huge shout out to the channel members. In the Distinguished Pencilman tier, we have Dakota A, Cody C, and Vane Main. In the right hand pen tier, we have Single and Timothy C. And in the Sir pen tier, we have Mr. Blake himself. Thank you all so much for your support. I will do my best to keep putting out content that you all enjoy. I hope you all have an amazing day. Don't forget to like and subscribe.